Okay, so let's really get into this. We've got these sources here, and they're all kind of pointing towards this feeling, this pressure we feel to change. That feeling like fundamentally you're just not okay the way you are right now.
Yeah.
And the only fix seems to be becoming some other better version of yourself.
Right. But what if that whole urge is actually hitting you at the worst possible moment?
Exactly. And what if the real way forward isn't this huge overhaul, but something gentler? That's really the heart of our deep dive today.
Yeah, absolutely. And the main source we're looking at, it's this really interesting book by psychiatrist Tomoya Fujino.
Okay.
The Japanese title is Eri Midam. It translates roughly to Living as You Are, Tips from a Psychiatrist for an Easier Heart.
Living as you are. I like that.
And it's clearly hit a nerve. The series has reportedly sold over 70,000 copies.
Wow, 70,000. That's quite something.
It really is.
It tells you this isn't just some, abstract idea.
Mm.
People are connecting with this. So our mission, I guess, is to unpack why this pressure hits so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the different angle this book offers and sort of pull out the practical stuff. How can we actually use these ideas to feel a bit lighter?
And it's worth mentioning, the author, he brings a pretty unique viewpoint. It's not just his clinical work. He's apparently lived with a long-term health condition himself since he was a child. And that personal experience, you can sort of feel it. It adds this layer of depth, maybe empathy, to his insights in the sources.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so right off the bat, the sources point out something really interesting. This feeling, this I have to change or I'm not good enough, it doesn't just pop up randomly.
No, not at all. It often surges, like right when you're already feeling low, stressed, insecure.
Yeah, vulnerable.
Exactly, vulnerable. The sources give examples like, messing up at work or feeling like you don't measure up to people around you.
Or relationship struggles.
Yeah.
Getting criticized.
Yeah, or just trying to fit into a new place, a new job, whatever. These are not times when you're feeling strong and confident.
Right, your emotional tank is already kind of running on empty.
Precisely. It's like someone telling you to run a marathon when you can barely walk.
So why does it feel like society, or maybe just our own heads, doubles down on that pressure then?
Well, according to the sources, a big chunk of it is external. There's this constant, often unspoken push to fit in, follow these arbitrary rules or what people call common sense, or trying to be this ideal normal person or proper person.
It doesn't really exist anyway.
Exactly. But we internalize those standards, right? And then we beat ourselves up when we feel like we're falling short.
On comparison.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That has to play a huge role.
Oh, absolutely. Comparison's always been there. But like you said, social media, SNS, the sources call it just puts it on steroids.
Yeah, it really does. You're seeing everyone's highlight reel and that I'm not good enough, just skyrockets.
Totally. It just feeds right into that belief the author's trying to tackle. The current me is insufficient.
Okay, so that's the problem space. Feeling bad when you're down, pressure from outside, comparison making it worse. So what's the book's alternative if it's not about forcing change right away?
Right. This is the big shift. The core message from the sources is when you're in that tough spot, when that urge to change feels overwhelming, the most important thing isn't jumping into fixing yourself.
Okay.
It's actually to first care for yourself, accept yourself, right where you are in that moment.
Care before change.
That's it, exactly. Build that foundation of self-compassion first. The book apparently has these messages that are described as being like a heart's charm.
A heart's charm. I like that. Like little reminders.
Yeah, sort of like gentle pieces of wisdom, just to give you some comfort, maybe shift your perspective a little. It's not saying never grow or change.
Right.
But saying, hang on, where do you need to start from right now?
That metaphor feels really comforting. And the sources pull out some specific quotes that really capture this gentle vibe. Any that jumped out at you?
Yeah, I mean, there are apparently 45 messages in the book, but a few really nail it. Like, it's okay to live sluggishly. Life isn't only about trying hard.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That hits back against that constant hustle culture, doesn't it?
It really does. Or this one about internal boundaries. Say to yourself, go on without me. You focus on your own life.
But just like in your head.
Yeah, in your heart, it's fine. It says it's about protecting your own peace internally.
Setting those internal boundaries. Yeah, I think a lot of us find that tricky.
Definitely. And then there are others about letting go of external judgment, like please don't let others define the shape of your happiness and tackling those labels directly. You don't have to aim to be a non-existent creature called a normal person or a proper person.
Just hearing that feels kind of liberating, you know?
Oh, it does.
And what about the one about mistakes?
Oh, yeah, that one's great. It's okay to apologize for a mistake, but stop denying the self that made the mistake.
Separating the action from your core self-worth.
Exactly. It's like the sources show the book gently trying to take apart these pressures inside and out.
And the way the book is structured, that reinforces this idea too, right?
Yeah, the sources point out it's got 5 chapters, and chapter 1, the very first one, is titled, First, Care for and Nurture Yourself.
So it puts it front and center.
Right away, it tells you, look, when you're feeling overwhelmed, this is where you start.
Okay, so turning to the people who've actually read it, what did the reader feedback and the sources say? What really hit home for them?
Well, reading through the reviews mentioned, the biggest thing seems to be this overwhelming sense of permission.
Permission.
Yeah, permission to just feel what they're feeling. Permission to slow down. Permission to not have to immediately fix themselves or force change, especially when they're already struggling.
So permission to rest, basically.
Yes, exactly. It sounds like it felt like a huge relief for many. One reviewer mentioned how it felt so much more, I don't know, real and helpful compared to other self-help stuff that just tells you to be tough or push through.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
If you're hurting, being told just be stronger can feel really dismissive.
Totally isolating, yeah. Readers also apparently liked some specific, maybe slightly quirky bits of advice.
Like what?
Like the suggestion to think of difficult people as cats.
As cats? Seriously?
Yeah, like you observe their behavior, maybe find it puzzling or annoying, but you don't necessarily try to reason with them or change them fundamentally. You just kind of manage your interactions.
Okay, think of my boss as a cat.
Yeah.
That's actually a brilliant reframe.
Isn't it? And another simple but powerful idea was realizing that someone else's anger is usually about them, their stuff. It's not automatically something you caused or need to absorb or fix.
Right, detaching from their emotional state a bit.
And the sources show that for a lot of readers, the really big takeaway was understanding that self-acceptance, accepting yourself right now, isn't actually stopping you from growing.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, it's the necessary starting point. It's not passive resignation. It's building that stable foundation so that you can eventually make healthy changes when the time is right.
Okay, let's dig into something mentioned in the sources about the books afterward. Apparently, the author shares a really powerful insight from his psychiatry practice.
Yes, this bit was really fascinating. He talks about how, in his experience, when patients say things like, I want to die, it's often not just that literal statement.
Okay.
He finds it frequently masks deeper feelings. Things like, living is just too painful right now, or I really need help, or even, I want things to be different, I want to change, but I feel completely stuck and don't know how.
Okay. So that intense desire for change, or even for things to end, might actually be a sign of deep pain and feeling lost.
Exactly.
Not necessarily a sign that you're inherently flawed or failing.
Precisely. It comes from that feeling of the current me is insufficient, but also from just not seeing a path forward. He really stresses looking underneath the words to get at the real pain or need.
It reminds me of that analogy he used, the one in the sources, about a patient saying they feel dizzy.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
A doctor doesn't just hear dizzy and stop there, right? They ask, what kind of dizzy? Is the room spinning? Are you lightheaded? Feel like you might pass out? Because knowing the specific type of dizziness points towards the actual problem and how to treat it.
It's a perfect analogy. Just like the doctor needs specifics, we need to understand the specific hurt or fear behind that I must change feeling if we want to address it properly.
And building on that, the afterword apparently introduces this really compelling idea about ambivalence, being stuck in the middle.
Yeah, he calls it the narrow space, that kind of uncomfortable, uncertain zone where you maybe feel that pull to change, but you're not sure how, or you're torn.
Which usually feels awful, right? Like you need to get out of it ASAP.
Right. But here's the radical part. He argues that this narrow space isn't just something to escape. It actually has its own unique value, even a certain charm, he says.
Charm. In feeling stuck and uncertain. How does that work?
Well, his point is, if you rush it, if you force a decision just to get rid of the discomfort, you miss out on what you can only learn or feel while you're in that uncertainty. The insights about yourself, the subtle feelings, understanding what's really driving you, those things might only surface in that limbo phase. So he suggests it's actually okay to just be there for a bit, inhabit that narrow space without demanding an immediate answer.
So instead of seeing ambivalence as a failure or a problem, view it as a phase with its own potential lesson.
Exactly. A temporary state, not a permanent flaw.
Okay, so bringing this all together, how do we actually do this? How do we practice this care before change thing? The sources mention some practical steps.
Right. One source laid out some really concrete tips that fit perfectly with the book's whole message. It starts with consciously changing your internal self-talk. Like, actively practice accepting it's okay not to be perfect. Instead of focusing on all the things you didn't do, shift to, okay, what could I do today? Maybe even just jotting down one small thing you accomplished.
Making feelings more visible, that was mentioned too.
Yeah, getting them out of your head, visualizing them, organizing them somehow. Maybe writing them down in a simple feeling diary. It can stop them feeling so huge and overwhelming.
And tackling the comparison beast.
Definitely. Making a conscious effort, a habit almost, of not comparing yourself. And yeah, that often means being really mindful about social media, maybe limiting it, maybe curating your feed. Whatever works for you.
And the simple act of resting, which feels not simple sometimes.
It feels revolutionary sometimes. But yeah, having the courage to actually rest. The sources even suggest, like scheduling it, treating downtime like an important appointment you can't miss, recognizing rest as productive.
And reaching out.
Crucial. Talking to someone you trust, sharing the load, getting perspective, it stops things festering internally. And one last practice mentioned was trying to see yourself from like a third-person view, maybe literally writing yourself a kind letter.
Like you would write to a friend.
Exactly. If your friend was going through what you are, what would you say to them? Offer yourself that same compassion.
So it feels like the really big shift, the core idea from all these sources is this. The next time you feel that intense pressure, inside or out, to change because you feel like you're not enough or you're stressed or failing.
Yeah. Maybe the best first move isn't some massive overhaul. It's not trying to instantly become someone else.
It's more like a gentle pause.
Exactly. A pause to turn inward. To actually care for and accept yourself right here, right now, flaws and all. The book frames this not as like giving up.
No.
But is the essential first step, the active foundation you need for real well-being and eventually for making healthy changes when you're ready.
Thinking about all this, what stands out most to you? Especially that idea from the author about the narrow space, that ambivalence. What could you or anyone listening actually learn by letting yourself just be in that uncertainty for a while instead of fighting it or rushing for an answer? What kinds of insights do you think are hiding out in that specific moment of not quite knowing?